we did reach out to the Carney campaign to get a statement on this. I just want to put part of it to you. It says in part, Brookfield Asset Management remains one of the largest investors in Canada. It continues to list on the TSC, and its parent company, Brookfield Corp, continues to be headquartered in Toronto. The changes reported are technical in nature, and with respect to jobs, Brookfield has clearly stated that Canadian operations were not impacted. If that is the case, why are you accusing Mr. Carney essentially of being more out for himself than Canada?
Well, first of all, it's important that we underline the fact that he lied. He said that he had left the company when the decision was taken. We know it was reported on October 31st that the move was to happen. And then on the 1st of December, Mr. Carney signed a letter as chair of the board stating that a unanimous decision had been taken to initiate the move. And he urged all shareholders to uphold the unanimous decision of the board that he was on to move the headquarters from Canada to Donald Trump's hometown of New York City. And he did this, Vassy, just days after Donald Trump had threatened Canada with tariffs, unjust tariffs, for the very first time.
And I do understand that point. And certainly if he were on tonight, I would be asking him about why he said what he did. But at the heart of it, what you are also insinuating, or what you're also accusing, rather, Mr. Carney of, is being, and I heard this from other people in your party today as well, being more out for himself than out for Canada. If at the heart of this move, though, it does not mean less taxes paid in Canada, it does not mean fewer jobs in Canada, and the parent company remains in Canada, how can those two things be true?
Well, these are all great questions for Mr. Carney, who tonight, like he has been over the last several weeks, has been very selective about the media appearances that he's taking. And when he does appear in front of the media, he's lying. And so we can't just take Mark Carney at his word or his friends or business associates, because last night he said something that was not true. He said something knowingly false, and that was that he wasn't chair when this decision was taken, and he absolutely was. And so the question for Mark Carney is, why would they take this action, take this step to reshore this headquarters jobs to the United States? It certainly doesn't make Canada's position any stronger with a move like this. And these are excellent questions for Mark Carney, why he wouldn't take a stand for Canada, take a stand for Canadian jobs and for Canadian investment in our Canadian economy.
To be clear, there was one decision taken at the end of January after he quit, and that was by shareholders. To be fair, he was chair of the board, as I said in the introduction, on 2 occasions when they unanimously endorsed the move and forwarded that information to shareholders. I just want to read from one of their announcements, though.
But just quickly, if I can, the decision that shareholders voted on was after Mark Carney had written a letter to them on his signature, asking them to take the decision to support the move, with him, along with the rest of his board, having unanimously advised them to do that. So it would be generous to say it was disingenuous, but it would be more accurate to say that he was lying.
Look, and I do understand there should be hard questions for Mr. Carney about the way in which he is representing himself. But the bigger accusation that you're making beyond the mischaracterization or lying, as you say, is that he's, kowtowing to Donald Trump or not standing up for Canada. And I'm telling you that essentially what this company says in their own announcement is the arrangement will not result in any changes to the operations or strategic plans and will have no effect on the tax treatment of their respective dividends. So are you taking a leap essentially not grounded in fact by accusing him of essentially not sticking up for Canada?
Well, take a look at the letter, Vassy, the letter that we released this morning after the Mark Carney's lie was exposed. And it says that the decision that they're taking to move their headquarters to New York City, to Donald Trump's hometown, days after Trump had first threatened Canada with his unjust and unjustified tariffs, was to enhance the profits of their shareholders. This is his MO. This is what Mark Carney is all about, putting profits, his own profits, ahead of Canadian people. Last night he went on a tear, making all kinds of baseless allegations about who supports Donald Trump more. But I think that the evidence is, with Mark Carney's signature on it, that he was looking to enhance his company's profits by making a move of their headquarters to New York City, Donald Trump's hometown, just days after those tariff threats. And he said in his own words, it was to enhance their profits. Those that's not going to do anything to drive business investment in Canada, to create new jobs in Canada, or to protect Canadians.
The initial decision, though, was made in October. That's before the November the 5th election. And when you talk about increasing the profits for shareholders, many of whom, by the way, are Canadian, in that part, it was to get it essentially to get it listed on an index in the United States. Again, the broader headquarters for the company doesn't move. Like the company itself said, this is a move on paper. The jobs stay, the taxes are still paid in Canada. Is it too far of a leap? And I understand the questions about how he represented himself, to be certain, but is it too far of a leap to all of a sudden essentially say he doesn't care about Canada just because of this?
Well, you did take a look at what the business commentary was around the time when Mark Carney was on the board, and he did vote to take this decision, contrary to what he said last night. In direct, this is directly opposed to what he said last night. He said that, well, that decision was made after he left. Well, that's the lie. So you have to take everything Mark Carney says with a grain of salt now. But look, if they're starting to reshore to the United States, if they're looking to migrate their listings to indexes in other countries, what's that doing to enhance Canadian prosperity? It's not. It's all he's doing is answering the call that Donald Trump made to Brookfield when he said, "We want you guys in New York City, in my hometown, down the street from Trump Tower." And so when Mr. Carney says that, he said Canadians need to pick someone who's going to stand up for Canada, it's certainly not him, because the first call that he answered was from Donald Trump, and he did exactly what he asked, and that was to move investment to the United States from Canada.
Another part of the statement that they released today in conjunction with what I already read, the top of it reads, Pierre Poilievre is scared of running against Mark Carney, and he's desperate, Mr. Barrett, to represent Mark's serious experience in business because he has no economic experience whatsoever. Do they have a point? Support for your party and public opinion polling over the last month has completely cratered. Why do you think Canadian public sentiment is moving so certainly away from your party at this moment in time?
You know what? Polls are always going to fluctuate, but what hasn't changed is that after 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, Canadians are having a terrible time just trying to get by. They can't afford to heat their homes, to feed themselves, or to put fuel in their car. And while the Liberals are trying to reinvent themselves by taking a carbon copy of Pierre Poilievre's policies, look, Mr. Carney wants to be critical of Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre. But what are the first policies that he's announced? They're Mr. Poilievre's. That's that he's going to, he claims he's going to remove the carbon tax, the job-killing carbon tax, though he doesn't mention often that he's going to replace it with a shadow carbon tax. He says that he's going to take the taxes off new homes, another policy of Mr. Poilievre's. If Mr. Carney is so sure of his bona fides, it's very and not of Mr. Poilievre's. It's very interesting that he's taking all of his policies. But I have to ask, if the Liberals are so sure that they're on solid footing, why have they shuttered Parliament during the crisis that we're dealing with and facing this historic threat of tariffs from the United States? It's unbelievable that they're not willing to face the scrutiny of democratically elected people, while simultaneously claiming that no one has anything to say on these issues themselves. We have a plan. It puts Canada first, and it's going to put more money back in Canadians' pockets.
I do want to ask about that, though, because the other criticism that you've levied, part and parcel of what you're saying right now against Mr. Carney, is that he hasn't been specific. I think the characterization or the word that your party has used is sneaky, particularly around his promises about balancing what he calls the operational side of the budget. With great respect, your party has also not been transparent. And if you expect him to be specific, isn't it fair for Canadians to expect you to be specific?
Well, Mark Carney is, he expects to be prime minister in just over a week's time. And so I think that the scrutiny is certainly due on the prime minister on what he plans to do. He supported all of Justin Trudeau's spending. He says he's going to keep all of Justin Trudeau's out of control inflationary spending, while also investing more and simultaneously balancing the budget. This is Mark Carney's claim, and he's been unclear on how he's going to do that, with the same kind of magical thinking we've seen from Justin Trudeau when he said that he would run 3 small deficits and then balance the budget by 2019. Mr. Carney has also said that he's going to eliminate the carbon tax, but has said that he's going to put in place a shadow carbon tax. That is absolutely sneaky, saying that they're going to put it onto people that make steel. saying to one of your colleagues, Vassy, that that the steel isn't something that Canadians use, and so somehow taxing it is going to close the gap that they're looking to close with another carbon tax that will do nothing to save the environment, but do everything to make life more unaffordable for Canadians. There's been very.
I guess my question is, isn't it a bit rich to criticize that? And I get the criticism. I would have hard questions for Mr. Carney about that as well. Isn't it rich to criticize what he's proposing for a climate plan when your party has proposed nothing?
Look, we've made very substantial commitments with respect to climate, including using technology like investing in nuclear technology, which is something that the Liberals have turned away from. Also displacing global greenhouse gas emissions by using clean Canadian energy instead of relying on and importing oil from dictatorships. We have put very clear ideas in the window, but the Liberals have they haven't called an election, and they refuse to have these debates in Parliament because they padlocked Parliament. You say you'd put these questions to Mark Carney. Well, where is he, Vassy? We're a week out from the end of the Liberal leadership, the winner of which will become the Prime Minister. And Mark Carney's refusing to even come on television to talk about these things. I'm happy to talk about Conservatives' plans to invest in technology, to eliminate the carbon tax, to put Canada first. But the real question is, where's Mark Carney? The last time Canadians heard from him, he was lying on national television when pressed by a reporter with a very straightforward question.
Well, I would welcome Mr. Carney on the program, and I'd certainly welcome your leader, Mr. Poilievre, as well. Both have declined our requests on a couple of occasions, but I'll leave it there, Mr. Barrett. Thank you very much for making the time for the conversation.
I'm happy to chat with you anytime, Vassy. Happy to chat anytime.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, excellent. Thanks for making the time.